Welcome to this edition of Head to Head. I'm your host, Cam McKinney, and this is episode number 414 of the podcast. And on this episode, I'm talking about the Celtics' shocking loss to the Philadelphia 76ers in the first round of the NBA playoffs. Coming into the postseason, the Boston Celtics were 32-0 in playoff series where they held a 3-1 lead. Now that's no longer the case as they fall to the Philadelphia 76ers. And before I criticize, I want to give center Joel Embiid a ton of credit. In the 4 games he played, he averaged 29 points per game and 9 boards. Now let's get into the Celtics. We love to play the blame game, and it's hard not to look at the 2 stars on the team and wonder what happened. Jaylen Brown had an incredible year where in some years he might take home an MVP award. My biggest gripe with him in this series was being called for 10 offensive fouls. I get it. You feel the need to be physical, but you're the best player on the team currently. You must adjust to how the officials are calling the game. To make the same mistake over and over and over again is pure madness. And then you have Jason Tatum, who came back from injury, was rebounding at an elite level, but his offense just isn't there yet, and some will question him missing Game 7. I'm not going to do that, but I do get why you would. Expectations for the Celtics coming into the season were low, but they ended up the 2 seed in the East, and many people's pick to come out of the East and make the finals. One thing that does annoy me every time the Celtics lose in the playoffs, it becomes a grander conversation surrounding three-pointers. The people who have a problem with the Celtics taking threes all the time really have an issue with modern basketball and not this team specifically. And look, sometimes in years past, I have understood that criticism of why are the Celtics taking so many three-point shots when they have elite talent around the basket. I mean, this is a team that used to have Kristaps Porzingis. They used to have Al Horford. When Jason Tatum is healthy, he can attack the basket. Jaylen Brown, of course, can attack the basket. But this year specifically, I don't understand that criticism. That is the strength of the team. They are full of three-point shooters. There's really nothing else to their offense. And I get you can say that's a diss, but it really isn't. It's how this current team was built. When guys like Derek White and Sam Hauser and Peyton Pritchard are contributing offensively, it mostly has to do with how well they are shooting the three-point shot. So while I understand the idea that you don't like the Celtics living and dying by the three, that is the only way this team was going to survive. They weren't all of a sudden in the first round of the NBA playoffs going to become a team that does anything else than live and die by the three. My biggest concern all season was the rotation of bigs. I didn't think the Celtics had enough size, and after seeing them get dominated by Joel Embiid, who at times was being guarded by Jaylen Brown, I don't know how you could disagree. This offseason, they lost Al Horford, who was really good at guarding Joel Embiid. The Celtics need to add size this offseason. They don't need to add an elite scorer. They don't need to add a point guard. I don't think they need to move on from Derek White, who I still believe is the team's best defensive player. Just add a couple of bigs to go alongside Kata, who I think is a very good rotation player, but I do not believe is a starting center even in today's NBA. So many people right now are criticizing Celtics head coach Joe Mazzulla, and rightfully so. I mean, he blew a 3-1 lead, but I do not believe that every coach who does that deserves to be fired. This is a guy who has won the NBA Finals. I think he's made the most out of this roster, and a lot of guys had stellar seasons for him this season. But he also started 3 guys out of nowhere in Game 7 against the Philadelphia 76ers. I'm not here to say that I believe Joe Mazzulla is the best head coach in all of basketball, but I do believe he is the right guy to be the head coach of the Celtics and coach guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I mean, who else is supposed to be the head coach of the Celtics next season? I mean, the guy is still a young coach. He is still getting better, in my opinion, and he's going to learn something from this loss. A frustrating thing being a fan of this team is people have the same conversations about them over and over and over again, that they take too many threes, that maybe it's time to break up the tandem of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And here's what I have to say about that one specifically. You should only separate Brown and Tatum when and if they want it to happen. If Jaylen Brown, for whatever reason, no longer wants to be a member of the Celtics, then yes, you should absolutely trade him. The narrative surrounding these two is just not as interesting as people think that it is. I mean, this is not the modern day Shaq and Kobe. Like, I don't think these two players hate each other. Do I believe that both of them think that they are the best player on the team? Yes, Jason Tatum believes he is the best player on the Boston Celtics. He believes he's a guy who could win an MVP. He thinks he's one of the top 5 players in basketball. And the exact same thing can be said about one Jaylen Brown. It's not a bad thing to have two guys who think they are the best player in the world. In fact, it is an advantage that the Celtics have over most other teams. And neither guy is even 30 years old yet. I get it. It feels like this is a narrative that should be coming to an end, but they've already won the finals together. I think there's still more for this duo to do to become an all-time great duo in the history of basketball. I think it is a possibility that it happens. Yes, you should feel bad about how this season ended for the Celtics, but I also think you should feel hopeful about the fact that Jason Tatum is going to be fully healthy at some point, and you're going to have Jaylen Brown alongside. There's so much discussion about the rest of the roster. Yes, I love Derek White. I'm a fan of Sam Hauser, but I don't really think that matters as long as you have the foundation of Tatum and Brown. You can rebuild around them. I mean, we all thought that this season was going to be a wash, but because you had Jaylen Brown, you were able to survive the majority of it without Jason Tatum. This is basketball where individual players mean everything, and the Celtics have two of the top, let's say 10 players in all of basketball. Maybe that's being hyperbolic, but even if you're not the biggest fan of these two, the Celtics have two of the top 20 players in the game. Another thing that most people hate about this era of Celtics basketball is the lack of home court advantage. I mean, they lost 3 games in this series at home to the Philadelphia 76ers. That should not happen. And I'm not even somebody who really loves the idea of home court. I think you're playing on a court, you're playing basketball, it's the same court. But losing 3 games at home is ridiculous when you are the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. You are playing in front of your fans. You need to be pumped up a little. And I don't think home is where the superstars play their best. It's usually where the role players elevate their games, and that did not happen for the Celtics in their series against the Philadelphia 76ers, and it's the main reason why they are sitting at home right now. I think more concerning than losing 3 games at home is the fact that you blew a 3-1 series lead. To me, that is an indication that you are further than we thought you were at being an NBA champion again. In particular, this is a brutal loss for Celtics fans because who it was at the hands of? The Philadelphia 76ers, a team that usually the Brown Tatum Celtics have taken care of in the playoffs. I mean, this is Joel Embiid. Like I said earlier, Al Horford was the Embiid stopper at times. Celtics fans easily would have accepted a loss to the New York Knicks in the second round of the Eastern Conference playoffs because because they respected the New York Knicks. Celtics fans and media do not respect the Philadelphia 76ers, and it's because of their past with Joel Embiid in the playoffs. I don't think it's being talked about enough how big of a series this was for Joel Embiid. I think he took this series very seriously. I mean, he's missing games in the second round already against the Knicks. I think he really wanted to send Jaylen Brown and the Boston Celtics home. This was a rivalry for Joel Embiid. I mean, that's something that I'm willing to say is he obviously wanted it more than Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. I mean, Joel Embiid really wanted to prove the Celtics wrong because I do believe in a way that the Celtics thought that this would be a cakewalk to the second round. But what they forgot, and it wasn't just them, I think people were mainly done with Joel Embiid, is that he is a former MVP and still one of the best offensive big men in all of basketball. And maybe this is just me, but after seeing Tyrese Maxey get whatever he wanted in the series, I was left wondering, could the Celtics have won this series if they still had Drew Holiday? I mean, this was the one time this year when I was thinking about the player they had let go, because prior to that, they were succeeding without them. What would a Porzingis-type player do against Joel Embiid in this series? No one could have imagined Paul George playing a crucial role in taking down the Boston Celtics. I don't really care about the upset nature of all of this. I respect the Philadelphia 76ers. Nick Nurse is a coach like Joe Mazzulla, who has won an NBA title. The thing that I'm hung up on was the fact that they blew a 3-1 series lead. And I do really think a series loss like this could haunt the careers of some of these guys moving forward. Like, I don't know how much of a leash Joe Mazzulla is going to have in the future. NBA coaches, even good ones, get fired for blowing these kinds of leads in the playoffs, rightfully or wrongfully. And if you're a star player in the NBA, you don't want to be associated with these kinds of playoff losses. This is a bad look for Jaylen Brown, and it's a bad look for Jason Tatum, injuries aside. Maybe because I've watched these guys for so long now, I kind of thought they were above losses like this, where they would be the reason they're home. And I do think they are a big reason as to why they're not in the second round. Yes, give the Philadelphia 76ers all the credit in the world, but the Celtics imploded in a way that I never thought they were going to this season. The hope is that a loss like this brings the guys back together and not rips them apart. Like, I don't want Jaylen Brown to be gone. I want him to remain on the Celtics with Jason Tatum. I want them to recover from this, obviously, because I'm a fan of basketball, but I also think that this could motivate them as athletes, and that's always interesting to watch. It has to be said about both of them that both Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have become polarizing. For Jason Tatum, it's that he's not as good as we think he is. He's overrated. He doesn't perform well in crunch time. And for Jaylen Brown, it's his attitude about Boston. I mean, every media figure in Boston right now believes that Jaylen Brown does not want to be a member of the Celtics moving forward if he has to go back to playing second fiddle to Jason Tatum. And on top of that, people are criticizing Jason Tatum for missing Game 7 and calling him soft. I don't think that's fair. I mean, he came back quicker than most people do on an injury, and he obviously didn't want to risk the future of his playing career for one single game. Even if it is Game 7, it was still only the first round of the playoffs. I don't know if this is a hot take, but I don't think this was the worst loss of the Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown era of Celtics basketball. Them losing to the Warriors in the finals felt worse. Them losing to the Miami Heat in the conference finals felt worse. Don't get me wrong, this is bad. Nobody looks good after this series. I mean, this was a season full of goodwill. The Celtics came out of nowhere. They were one of the better stories in the NBA. And then to come out in the first round and blow a 3-1 series lead, that is bad. But even as a fan of the team, I never expected this roster to make it to the NBA Finals. And if I'm being honest, I didn't think they were going to make the Eastern Conference Finals. But my feelings towards them doesn't give them a pass for what actually happened in the first round of the playoffs against the Philadelphia 76ers, against a team that you have routinely beaten. You still should have won against the likes of Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and Paul George. We all feel that way. It was a terrible end to this season. There's no argument for the other side, but you can still feel hopeful for next season. I don't think drastic changes need to happen for the Boston Celtics. I don't need them to trade Jaylen Brown for Giannis. That trade is never going to happen, nor do I think it should. I still believe you have the best executive in basketball right now in Brad Stevens. I mean, what he has done with this roster has been phenomenal. He put together a championship team, and I think he's going to do it again in the future. I don't think a superstar is going to come to the Celtics this offseason, but I do believe that Brad is going to find a way for the team to get deeper. And I think they need to get deeper in a way that's more impactful than saying that you have 10 guys that you can play in a basketball game. I think they need to get deeper by having more guys you trust to play crucial playoff minutes, who you can rely on, who you know what you're going to get out of each and every night. Would I be shocked if Brad Stevens trades away Derek White? No, I would not. I mean, he is an aging guard. He did have an up and down offensive season. I think if you're going to do that, whoever you replace him with needs to be an elite defensive player, because Derek White brings it on the defensive end. I mean, he blocks shots better than most guards, and he still makes crucial plays on offense. One of the things I'm left wondering is, what do you end up doing with Peyton Pritchard? I mean, he's in this weird role where he's your sixth man, but he may end up being better than Derek White at this point. I think you need to go into next season with Peyton Pritchard as a starter. Like, he's too good to be coming off of your bench. I know everybody wants the microwave off of the bench, but he's become a guy that the Celtics really rely on the offensive end. Don't expect the Celtics to come into next season with a new identity. They are still going to be a team that takes a lot of free-point shots. And guess what? Every team in the NBA takes a lot of free-point shots. Yes, I know that the Celtics take more than almost all of them. I'm okay with it because it usually ends up working out for them. Even though they lost in the first round, they still won 56 games taking all of these free-pointers. I get it. Maybe it's not your favorite style of basketball, but it's the modern NBA. You can thank the Golden State Warriors. You don't need to keep blaming the Boston Celtics over and over and over again. The last thing I want to say is something that I am going to repeat. I don't think the Celtics should ever be the ones who decide when it's over between Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. They should never make that decision. That should be up to those two players. As long as Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum want to be teammates together, they should remain teammates together. Now, if Jaylen Brown wakes up tomorrow and demands a trade out of town, obviously Brad Stevens needs to react. But as long as he's happy enough, he needs to remain a member of the Boston Celtics. Tatum paired with another star other than Jaylen Brown just doesn't get the job done, in my humble opinion. It needs to be Jaylen Brown. They've won together. They're not even 30. They know what the postseason is like. They know how to handle it. And most importantly, they know know how to play good basketball together. This whole whose team is it discussion is always boring, especially when we are talking about a team that just lost in the first round of the playoffs. Who cares whose team it is? Yes, that's an interesting conversation when Jaylen Brown wins NBA Finals MVP over Jason Tatum. It's not a fun convo to have after they blew a 3-1 series lead against their rivals. Thanks for listening to this edition of Head to Head. I'm Cam McKinney, and there'll be a new episode of the podcast every week on Apple Podcast and Spotify, so please rate, review, and subscribe.